This is Rick Malone for the San Francisco Symphony. Charles Ives was a true maverick. Original, eccentric, cranky, defiant, and contemptuous of the musical establishment, he was also tender, sentimental, patriotic, and inspired in his singular musical vision. Ives wrote what he wanted to write, with no regard for the rules or recognized styles, and without caring whether or not his music was performed. As it turned out, most of it wasn't, at least not until decades after it was written. Ives' formal musical training at Yale was pretty traditional, although he did average a D+ in his courses. His real musical education had begun at home with his father, who was the bandmaster of Danbury, Connecticut. But George Ives was no ordinary bandmaster, and these were no ordinary music lessons. He accompanied his family in one key while they sang in another. He tried to teach them to sing in quarter tones, the notes between the notes, and rigged up musical machines that he invented himself. He was thrilled when his band and another passed in the park, each playing a different march, and he taught young Charlie to be thrilled as well. Charles Ives' music is full of quotations from the music that surrounded him. Hymns, marches, and dance music blending and colliding in a kind of musical collage and blurring the line between the cultivated and the popular. He questioned ideas of tempo, rhythm, and tonality decades before anyone else did, and even anticipated another maverick, John Cage, by half a century, with the idea that any sound is potential music. Ives wrote his Fourth Symphony between 1910 and 1916, but it wasn't performed in its entirety until 1965, 11 years after his death, and even then it took 3 conductors to get through the piece. There have been several editions which simplify things enough so that one conductor can handle it, but getting the full effect really takes at least 2. The score calls for an enormous orchestra, including 6 keyboards and chorus, sometimes singing and playing against each other in what sounds like complete chaos. But Ives knew exactly what he was doing. Ives described the work this way. This symphony consists of 4 movements. The aesthetic program of the work is the searching questions of what and why, which the spirit of man asks of life. This is particularly the sense of the prelude. The 3 succeeding movements are the diverse answers in which existence replies, wrote Ives. The second movement is not a scherzo, it is a comedy, in the sense that Hawthorne's Celestial Railroad is a comedy. Indeed, this work of Hawthorne's may be considered as a sort of incidental program in which an exciting, easy, and worldly progress through life is contrasted with the trials of the pilgrims in their journey through the swamp. The occasional slow episodes, Pilgrim's hymns, are constantly crowded out and overwhelmed by the former. The fugue, wrote Ives, is an expression of the reaction of life into formalism and ritualism. The dream, or fantasy, ends with an interruption of reality. The 4th of July in Concord, brass bands, drum corps, etc. This last movement, wrote Ives, which seems to me the best compared with the other movements, or for that matter with any other thing I've done, covers a good many years. In a way, it is an apotheosis of the preceding content, in terms that have something to do with the reality of existence and its religious experience." End quote. The prelude is brief and opens with a powerful statement. But already the cuts are quick, from the violins playing a phrase from Ives' first piano sonata to the hymn "Nearer My God to Thee." Then a solo cello answers with a quote from "In the Sweet By and By." The chorus chimes in with another of Ives' favorite hymns, "Watchman, Tell Us of the Night." More hymns come and go, and we even hear the Westminster chimes played on the celesta. The simplicity of the prelude flows, though not exactly smoothly, into the human comedy of the scherzo. Like a train gathering steam. But pausing every so often to listen to the distant hymn singing. Ives compared this movement to Hawthorne's Celestial Railroad, and he even quotes the Hawthorne movement from his Concord Sonata, along with songs like Tramp, 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 In the Sweet By and By, Beulah Land, and even Yankee Doodle. He pays tribute to his father as well, as the bands pass each other on the green. Playing tunes like Reveille, Columbia the Gem of the Ocean. Marching Through Georgia, Turkey in the Straw, Long, Long Ago, and even The Irish Washerwoman. The bands even march through the salon to take us to a social dance. There's a quiet interlude for piano and solo viola in its upper register. Ives described this part as a takeoff on polite salon music, pink teas in Vanity Fair social life, end quote. The bands return with some college fight songs and build to a climax, but then suddenly the chaos dribbles away to nothing. Setting the stage for the third movement, Ives gives a polite nod to his formal training at Yale with a simple and beautiful fugue. He begins with the hymn From Greenland's Icy Mountains, and then pulls in All Hail the Power of Jesus' Name, as well as fragments of other hymns appropriate for the reverential mood. Ives rounds off the fugue with a phrase From Joy to the World. Which sets up the finale. A distant drummer taps out a slow march, which is built around Nearer My God to Thee, woven through with other hymns. Ives was a follower of Thoreau and the Transcendentalists, and the mood of the finale is almost ethereal. The music builds to a huge climax, but then abruptly cuts off. The chorus returns, but wordlessly. And the waves of sound that tried to sweep us away recede. The symphony ends in an almost magical peace. Ives Symphony No. 4 is like many of his works. At its heart, it asks the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. After his death, it took several years and numerous editors, including Michael Tilson Thomas, to shape the score into something performable. And even now, it often takes at least 2 conductors to guide an orchestra and an audience through it. Messy, complicated, chaotic, but ultimately transcendent. Kind of like life itself. This is Rick Malone for the San Francisco Symphony.